Johnny Lechner is finally moving on. In fact, the University of Wisconsin at Whitewater is forcing Johnny Lechner to move on. You've heard about some people who extend a 4-year college program into 6, 7, 8 years. I've got at least one child on that track right now. Fair enough, 6, 7 years. Johnny Lechner at the University of Wisconsin Whitewater is in his 12th year of a 4-year program. He's gone way beyond what most people would think. Johnny Lechner's 30 years old. He still dresses like a college student. And he still goes to college parties. Johnny Lechner likes to sleep in, listen to music, hang out with friends, go to a class or two. For 12 years? What a life! What a life! Now, what might seem a bit absurd on a college level, right? 12 years to get through a 4-year program, is something we all struggle with on a personal level, right? Let's be honest this morning. We all know what it's like to put it on cruise control and just kind of coast through life. We all know what it's like to have areas where we just don't want to change. We all know what it's like to feel the sin of the day, the word of the day. You know what it is. I already told you. Here it comes again. Johnny Lechner, you and me, and all people at some time or another are overwhelmed with this word called apathy. Apathy. In the medieval church, they came up with 7 sins, 7 deadly sins. And one of the 7 deadly sins is apathy. Apathy. Apathy is actually a compound of 2 words in English. A, which means no. No. And that comes in English words like amoral or all religious or all millennial. It means that it negates the noun that is going to follow. So A means no. No. It means the same thing in Greek, by the way, because apathy is just a compound, finally, of 2 Greek terms. A means no, and in Greek, pathos, as it comes in English, pathy, means passion. Get it? So apathy means there's no passion. There's no vim and vigor. There's no enthusiasm. My get up and go got up and went. And you know what apathy's favorite word is? Whatever. Whatever. We're in this sermon series, aren't we, on Jesus' 7 miraculous signs in John's Gospel. And we're in sign number 3 this morning in John chapter 5, where Jesus takes dead aim and launches a frontal attack against apathy. Apathy. This sermon has 4 points. We're going to look at the disabled, and then the dilemma, and then the decree, and then the deliverance, right? Everybody got that? So let's start off with the disabled. The disabled. There's a lot of them in the beginning of John chapter 5. John tells us there is in Jerusalem, near the sheep gate, a pool, which in Aramaic is called Bethesda, and which is surrounded by 5 covered colonnades. Here, a great number of disabled. There it is. There's these disabled people. They used to lie, the blind, the lame, and the paralyzed. Now, this word Bethesda is actually quite important. You know that your pastor loves words, so here's another compound noun. We move from pathos, no passion, to Bethesda. Bethesda is actually an Aramaic term. John tells us that. And it's Beth, which is house, like Bethlehem, house of bread. You probably already know that. Beth means house. And Kizid is the Aramaic word for mercy. Mercy. So Bethesda is the house of mercy. In the late 1890s, there were some construction workers renovating a church in northeast Jerusalem, and guess what they found? They found Bethesda. They found ancient Bethesda. This is what it looks like today. You can see the ruins. You can see the modern housing there on the upper left of the picture. Back in the day, though, when Bethesda was this place where all of the disabled would gather, there was a bubbling fountain underneath the pool, a natural spring. And every now and then, under Bethesda, this spring would spring up and the water would be stirred. And what people thought was that an angel was touching its wings to the water. That's what was causing it to stir. So the idea was the first person into the water, once the angel is stirring the water, that first person will be healed. Did healing happen? I don't know. But a lot of the disabled thought healing would happen. So that's where they went. They went to Bethesda, the house of mercy. What did they have to lose anyway, right? Bethesda. Kind of what it looked like back in the day. If you've ever seen a field after a battle with all kinds of disabled and sick and injured people, then you're starting to get the idea of what Bethesda was like. If you've ever been to a nursing home, and I know you have, and it's understaffed and it's overcrowded, then you get the idea of Bethesda. If you've ever seen pictures of orphans in Bangladesh or the abandoned in New Delhi, you know about Bethesda. Bethesda was the kind of place where you just didn't hang out. And if you had to walk by Bethesda, you wouldn't stay too long. In fact, you might just turn your head the other way because it was ugly. It was messy. And no one spent time in Bethesda except no surprise here, except Jesus. Jesus stops in Bethesda, and he is going to turn Bethesda into a bona fide, real deal house of transforming mercy. So that's the disabled. Now the dilemma, and it is a huge dilemma. John goes on and writes, one who was there at Bethesda in this messy, sick place had been an invalid for 38 years. When Jesus saw him lying there and learned that he had been in this condition for so long, he asked him, do you want to get well? 38 years? And no wonder Jesus says, do you really want to get well? Let's be honest. There's a part of us that just gets used to living in a sick system. There's a part of us that just gets used to dysfunction and brokenness and pain. And it's just the way it is. And we're just going to live with that and deal with that. Because to change that relationship, to change that attitude, to change that schedule, that is so threatening. So I'm just going to stay sick. Do you want to get well? There was a pastor whose church had just built a beautiful sanctuary like this sanctuary, and he had his pastor friend come and kind of tour the new facility. And the pastor, whose church had just built this beautiful sanctuary, was pointing out up in the ceiling. He said to his pastor friend, we still have a few dead spots in the sound system. We still have a few dead spots. One's over there and one's over there. And his pastor friend said, brother, you need to understand. Every church has dead spots, including this church, St. Michael Lutheran Church. And where is a dead spot this morning? He's talking to you. He is. Several of you asked me as you came in this morning, did you get in a bike ride yesterday? And what did I say? No. I had to work. I had to come to church last night and prepare a sermon yesterday. Boy, that's a dead spot. That's a bad attitude. It's called apathy, indifference, no passion. You understand what that's like, right? Maybe you just kind of came dragging your feet this morning. Let's get through the ordeal. You just kind of go along like the muddy Mississippi River. You really don't want to be changed. You're really kind of content with this sour attitude. We know what it's like to shrug our shoulders, get on with the service, get on with this study, this sermon. It's just a big chore, it's a bore, it's a snore, until we say what? No more. Apathy, indifference, dead spots. We all know what that is like. And so we continue with these half-baked, half-committed Christian lives. Do you know why spouses become unfaithful? Do you know why employees become unfaithful? Do you know why Christians become unfaithful? It's called apathy. Who cares? Whatever. And that attitude is killing us. Recall, back in the day, that people thought that when the water at Bethesda began to move, that the first person to touch the water would be healed. It was a first come, first serve basis. So in John chapter 5, verse 7, the next verse, this invalid tells Jesus, I have no one to help me into the pool when the water stirred. While I'm trying to get in, someone else goes down ahead of me. Really? Really? I mean, think about this. For 38 years, he still is missing the boat? Oh, come on. He's not serious. He doesn't want to get well. He's just content in his sick system. His favorite word is what? Rationalize. Rationalize. You know why we're so sick? So complacent? Because we love to rationalize. Well, it's good enough for my wife. It's good enough, for other people. What's the big deal? You know what rationalize means? Rational lies. Get it? Rational lies. You've got them, I've got them. That's why we don't want to get well. So that's the disabled. That's his dilemma. That's my dilemma. It really is. This isn't just preaching talk here. I know dead spots. So do you. What does Jesus do? We go to the decree. The decree. Next verse, John 5:8. Then Jesus said to him. See, Jesus is done kind of small talking here. All right? Jesus is going to use the most powerful voice on the planet. He said to him, get up, pick up your mat, and walk. That's the decree. And when Jesus says it, that settles it, and that does it. In fact, the power of Jesus' word is what binds all 7 of these miraculous signs together. Remember a couple of weeks ago in John chapter 2? His mother said, do whatever he tells you. That's Mary talking about Jesus. Whatever Jesus says, do it. And of course, water was turned into wine. Last week, remember this royal official whose son was sick? It simply says the man took Jesus at his word. See, just speak the word, Jesus, and that's enough. Of course, today, the third sign, Jesus said, Get up, pick up your mat, and walk. And the guy actually got up after 38 years. Picked up his mat, and he walked. Next week, we will see where Jesus will take 5 loaves and 2 pieces of fish, remember? Give thanks. He will speak a word, and those 5 loaves and 2 fish will feed 5,000 men. Do you see the train of thought here? How John has placed all of this together. And in a couple weeks, sign number 5, Jesus will come out to the disciples walking on the Sea of Galilee and speak again, saying, "It is I, don't be afraid." And the storm will be stilled. In chapter 9, the 6th sign, this man born blind, Jesus told him, again, the spoken word, wash in the pool of Siloam. And the man says, "I was blind." Remember that? I was blind. I preached about that on Christmas Eve. I was blind, but now I see. And then the granddaddy of them all, right? Chapter 11. We'll get to this in about a month. Jesus called out in a loud voice, "Lazarus, come out." Lazarus is dead. He's been dead for 4 days. And he walks out alive. John's gospel has all of these beautiful names for Jesus. Like the Lamb of God, the resurrection and the life, the way, the truth, and the life, the good shepherd, the door, the vine, we're the branches. But what is the most dynamic, important title for Jesus in the 4th gospel? It's the way John starts his gospel. You know that. John 1, verse 1. In the beginning was the Word. And the Word was with God, and the Word, this is very important, the Word was God. Jesus is the Word. Jesus speaks the Word. Jesus gives the Word. Jesus utters the Word. Jesus changes everything with His Word. Reminds me of this famous story connected with Napoleon. A private caught Napoleon's runaway horse and returned it to Napoleon. And Napoleon said to the private, "Thank you, Captain." And he said, "What? Say that again." And Napoleon said, "Thank you, Captain." With just a word, the private became a captain. And he believed it. Napoleon Bonaparte said it. That settled it. And so the private turned captain went to the quartermaster and got a captain's uniform. He went to a bunk and picked out a captain's bunk. He went to the mess hall and picked out a place to eat his meal with his fellow captains. Get it? The decree. One word, and that did it. From, in this case, private to captain. The deliverance. Just to make sure we pick this up, after Jesus says it, that did it. John 5, verse 9. He picked up his mat and walked. When Jesus gives the decree, there is deliverance. That's one of the major themes of John's gospel. When Jesus gives the decree, there is most certainly deliverance. And Jesus has now turned Bethesda into a transforming place of mercy. Remember what I said, John 1, verse 1. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. We need to understand, and we need to believe that when Jesus speaks, He has the authority of God because He Himself is God. Genesis 1, verse 3. God said, "Let there be light," and there was light. The same God is speaking in Jesus. Jesus says, "Pick up your mat and walk," and the man picked up his mat and walked. Our words don't normally work that way. God's words always work that way. And we have a word for that. It's called transforming mercy. What's it mean? It means when Jesus says you are loved, You are loved beyond imagination. When Jesus says you are valuable beyond words. When Jesus says, this is my body and this is my blood, you get real body and real blood beyond your wildest dreams. And when Jesus says from the cross, John 19, verse 30, it is finished, it means it's really finished. Salvation is complete. It's a free gift. It's all yours. Jesus said it. That settles it. And we've got a word for that. It's called mercy. Transforming mercy. "23 days ago, I was in Denver, Colorado, and I hadn't been to my high school for some time. So being a nostalgic person, I thought, I'm just going to walk around my high school. And lo and behold, I was looking in through the glass windows because it was locked, and I saw my trigonometry room, and it brought back memories. Trigonometry was the kind of class where people would just phase out. I feel very sorry for any high school teacher who teaches any subject like math. This was the kind of class where you had to show up early to get a back row seat, okay? Because everyone just was apathetic. So I remember this one day, a couple guys showed up late, which means they got front row seats. And their attitude was kind of like that. And this trig teacher had had enough. So he grabbed a piece of chalk, whirled around to the chalkboard, and put in great big letters, A-P-A-T-H-Y. And he underlined it twice. And he used an exclamation point. And placing the exclamation point on the exclamation point, he broke the chalk. These guys were awake. One guy kind of squinted. He was looking at the chalkboard, and he didn't know what it meant. And he sounded it out, and it sounded like this, apathy. And he looked at his friend, and he said, what is apathy? And you know what his friend said? Who cares? Who cares? Whatever. What is apathy doing in your life? How's it eroding your marriage? How's it hurting your children? How is it harming your health? How is it setting back your career? How long have you had that bad attitude, that bad excuse? How long have you had that rational lie? Has it been 38 years? I have very good news for you today. You see, wherever Jesus shows up, and he is here, unseen, but he is here, wherever Jesus shows up, that is a Bethesda. That is a house of transforming mercy. And Jesus speaks the word, doesn't he? He says, get up, take your mat, and walk. Jesus says that same word to us, right? And as we listen and as we believe, we will renounce every form of apathy, every form of indifference, and we will take up our mat, we will get up, and we will live with vim and vigor and enthusiasm and great joy all the days of our lives. Because Jesus said it. That settles it. We believe it. Amen.